I want you to think about the most unique places in our town. These can be places that are easily recognizable, particularly nostalgic. The places that make our town distinct from any other. This is the pause where I let you think. Okay, now that's done. I bet none of you thought about the Walmart parking lot, or 4-lane roads, or any chain business, or any one of our $4 generals. So for my Great Ideas project, I wanted to highlight the things that do not give our town life, the things that do not come to mind. Why have our towns developed opposite to what we, as citizens, want and need? I've identified 3 things causing our cities to decline. 1, a failure to provide infrastructure safe for pedestrian use. 2, a failure to provide accessible and reliable public transportation. And 3, a failure to preserve, this is a long one, bear with me, socially crucial historical or cultural architecture in favor of modern, oftentimes car-centric infrastructure. If we can address these issues, I believe the health of our cities will improve. The bottom line is that we as citizens are entitled to cities that will meet our basic needs. So my first point is infrastructure. Much of our infrastructure is unsafe for pedestrian use. According to the CDC, nearly 8,000 pedestrians were killed in crashes involving motor vehicles in 2021. That is equivalent to 1 death every 66 minutes. If that was in 2021, when many of us were still hunkered down because of the pandemic, think about what those numbers might look like today. Some other statistics, all directly sourced from the CDC, include most pedestrian deaths, 60% in 2020, occur on high-capacity urban roads that typically have posted speed limits of 45 to 55 miles per hour. Many of these roads suffer from a design conflict between providing destinations, stores or restaurants that people need to access, and allowing high travel speeds that often prioritize vehicle movement. Among the 60 roads that had the most pedestrian deaths between 2001 and 2016, all were roads with adjacent commercial retail space. Nearly all were multi-lane roads, and more than 3/4 had speed limits of 30 miles per hour or higher. Does any of this sound familiar? It should. We're talking about stroads, and they are everywhere. According to strongtowns.org, a strode is what happens when a street, a place where people interact with businesses and residencies and where wealth is produced, gets combined with a road, a high-speed route between productive places. The deadliest strode in America is in Port Richey, Florida, and the county in which this strode is located saw 112 fatalities from 2017 to 2021. But stroads aren't just Florida's problem. We have them too. They're in Joplin, Overland Park, KC, even north of Broadway could be considered a strode. It is clear that pedestrian safety, even when doing simple everyday activities like crossing the street, is in serious jeopardy in America. So fixing stroads can be complicated. Fortunately, I have this handy infographic to make everything look really easy and simple. In order to fix stroads, we have to decide what each individual strode's purpose should be. Do we need a road to transport people and goods quickly over distances? Or do we want to build our communities with a street? If the answer is a street, first we have to slow traffic. High speeds in pedestrian areas are totally unnecessary and have severe consequences. Death. Put people, bicyclists, and public transit first, not cars. It seems pretty self-explanatory, but prioritizing cars is kind of the whole reason we're in this mess in the first place. Number 3, we have to focus on building, filling gaps, and expanding existing structures. One of the biggest downfalls of stroads and the development surrounding them is the sheer waste of space. Think of the distance between box stores on your average strode. Even removing all traffic, you're still looking at an entirely unwalkable area. That's what makes filling the gaps so important. We have to build for people. And if the answer is a road, we have to limit access, seek to close existing access, keep people and bicyclists away from cars in a separate, safe place, don't try to build anything, and simplify. That is the most important point. And really, what other purpose should a road have? If you have people walking in front of traffic that is 45 to 55 miles per hour, yeah, people are going to die. It's going to suck. Okay, so I'm sure to many of you, transforming roads probably seems pretty unattainable. You aren't entirely wrong. Undergoing a project of this size would require a lot of cooperation that we do not get overnight. I mean, that's precisely why we have to start now. And in order to start, we first have to stop. Stop investing in roads. Stop expanding roads. There is no path to making our roads better that benefits from a bigger road. We need to actively show our opposition to these projects. Speak up against harmful development. A zero-tolerance policy is the best thing we can do for our towns and for ourselves. Transitioning into something that will hopefully feel more personal to you, I want to talk about something I stumbled upon while researching this project. Isn't it interesting how the first pictures that come up when you Google Pittsburg, Kansas, are of our downtown? Especially considering our downtown is relatively small when compared to cities like Lawrence or Joplin. It's like saying, oh, look at our idyllic small town, right out of a 90s rom-com. Don't you want to be just like Julia Roberts in Runaway Bride? I really hope you guys get that movie reference. If you don't, watch it. The reason our town is being sold this way, be it to prospective homeowners, incoming college freshmen, or literally anyone on the internet, is because this part of town looks good. These pictures have a sense of place. This street is easily recognizable, appealing, and just generally looks unique. People want this. So wouldn't the natural thing to do be to keep investing in streets like Broadway? Investing in our local culture will increase opportunities for local business, for the college, for employers, for realtors and investors, for everyone. One of the ways we can invest in our communities is through public transportation. Like many small towns, the public transport we have is near zero. I think this should change. Public transportation doesn't have to just be for big cities. We can reap its benefits too. Benefit one. Oh, what the heck? Is it? Okay. Public transportation has significantly lower fatality rates than passenger vehicles across the board. So, see these? Those are on the highway. All of these, that's public transit. Same here. All of that, those big scary bars, yeah, that's cars. Those, trains, buses. Much better. Thinking back to the Strode's issue, think about the lives that could be saved if we used public transit for medium distance travel more often. And looking at this from a local perspective, fortunately, the size of our town makes serious accidents a rarity. But that doesn't mean there aren't other reasons public transit would make sense for us. Leading into my second point, accessibility. People who don't have reliable access to cars for transportation or for any reason are unable to walk still need a way to get around affordably and efficiently. Public transit is the answer. It has the potential to make cities more accessible for everyone. Imagine this. You want to make Red Lobster biscuits. But a key ingredient for Red Lobster biscuits is water. You have no water because your water heater exploded and flooded your garage. But obviously, you need to get water to make your biscuits. But your parents aren't home, and you don't have a driver's license. So how are you going to get to the store? You can't. But if there was a bus, now we're getting somewhere. Public transportation has, I missed something. Is my slideshow broken? Obviously, this is a moot point if the public transit itself is not implemented in a way that makes it accessible and affordable. But I would argue that even inaccessible or difficult to access public transit is still preferable over no public transit because of our last subpoint, emissions. Public transit has significantly lower emissions rates than private vehicles. This circle, big one on the left, shows a breakdown of all greenhouse gas emissions the United States produces by category. 29% of these emissions are from transportation. Of those emissions, cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks, and freight trucks make up 77%. Most public transit, such as passenger trains, subways, or buses, would fall onto other. It's so little you can barely see it. And additional studies show that when public transit is used at its most efficient in terms of amount of people transported, the pounds of CO2 produced per passenger mile is at the lowest projection for any means of transportation studied. So these are all cars. And this is public transport when it's used efficiently. So going into the future, it will only be more important for our way of life to be climate conscious. Public transport is a great way to intersect keeping our planet healthy and investing in our towns. So, how does infrastructure, public transit, and culture connect? Well, some of you might be familiar with the psychological theory of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I present to you my own take on this hierarchy. We'll call this what cities need. Starting at the bottom, we have safety. It's only logical that in order to have a city, you have to keep your citizens alive. And in order for the citizens to want to frequent their streets and grow the local economy, they'll have to feel safe as well. That means no walking next to semi-trucks to get to the store. Here in the middle, we have convenience. Amenities such as public transportation must be readily available, inexpensive, and reliable. If these conditions are not yet met, said amenity will not be used. The implementation of public transit is key to lowering emissions and keeping pedestrians safe, but not everyone will want to walk. Not everyone is able to walk. An inaccessible city is not a city at all. And at the very top, we have culture. All of the preceding must be accomplished without sacrificing the things that make a city unique. To erase a city's culture is to erase its history. To erase its history is to render it soulless. At the beginning of this presentation, I asked you what makes our town special for a reason. I want you to imagine our town without that thing. Would you still want to live here? To raise a family here? I'm going to guess probably not. Taking this whole presentation into consideration, you might be wondering, what can I do? The most important thing is to get involved. Participate in town hall meetings. Make your opinions known. Also, support your local businesses. Sometimes, as individuals, it can seem like our actions don't amount to much. But within communities, small actions can have real effects. Forgo the chains when possible. You aren't just contributing to some small business owner's livelihood and passion by doing so, but you're making a demonstration as well. Show our city leaders what you want to see more of with your dollars. That's it.